Hi you guys, it's Tonya, and today I want to share with you a tutorial on how I made these cute little rosebuds for Marion Smith Designs. And I will put a link down below to better pictures of the flowers, plus a better picture of this beautiful tag that I use to display my little rosebuds. Isn't it gorgeous? Beautiful mixed media tag. So let's go ahead and get started. We have quite a long tutorial today, and I want to start out with making a little ball. I think it's Polyform Modeling Air Dry Clay from Sculpty. I think Sculpty makes it. So, and I just picked this up at a local department store, a local craft store, and it's very inexpensive. But you can also use the Martha Stewart clay. Any air dry clay will work. So I'm just going to pinch off a very small amount. I don't need a lot. And then I highly recommend sealing this up super tight so it doesn't dry out. So I'm just going to fold it over several times, try and get as much of the air out of it, and then pull it down and tape it shut so it's air dry. You want that to stay moist. And this is probably way too much. So the size of the ball that you create is going to be the base size of your flower. So keep that in mind. So we're just going to take that and roll it up into a little ball, just like this in your hand. And then I'm going to take a small piece of floral wire and just poke it right through the ball, come up about 1/4 of an inch, and fold that over. Now I'm going to push the ball down out of the way, fold this over so I don't damage the ball, and then I'm going to pull this back up like this, and that's going to secure it in. And then what I want to do is I'm going to cut off about 3 inches. I don't need it to be very long. However long you make the stem is how long your stems are going to be on your roses, okay? So there's that. Now you want to ideally put this aside and let it dry for about 20 minutes or so till this ball becomes rock hard, and it will. But in the meantime, I'm going to move on because we're doing a tutorial. And the next thing I want to do is just put it to the side for a second because we have some other stuff to work on. Maybe it'll dry out. The next thing I want to talk about is our flower petals. I decided to use these coffee filters for my base flower. Now they're not going to hold their shape as well as say paper would, and if you wanted to do this with like parchment paper you can. I just wanted it to have a really nice delicate flower pattern, and I wanted it to be the consistency of tissue paper, but the problem with tissue paper is it dissolves when it gets wet. So keep that in mind. Coffee filters don't have the starches in them that other papers have, so they don't tend to want to hold their shape too much. But because I'm working with a very small surface, it will hold just fine. It just keep that in mind when you're working with these. Experiment to find the right consistency that you like. Now these ridges that are on these coffee filters, this is a 4-inch cone coffee filter, very inexpensive. What you want to do is cut this ridge off. So all I did was I cut along it because you don't want it to end up inside of your flower. Now I recommend going ahead and coloring this coffee filter whatever color you want to make your rose. So in my case I coffee stained mine, and just take the morning coffee that you have left over and dump a couple of these into a bowl and pull them out and let them air dry, and then you have a really neat looking color on your flowers, a very antique vintage look. So there's that. And then once it's dry, then what I did was I took the coffee filters and I folded them over. I have another one here actually. I took the coffee filters and I folded them in half, and then I started to die cut. Now for my rose shape today, I used the Marion Smith Designs Bloom Impression dies. I used the small rose and I used the small rose petal. And I cut out a whole coffee filter full of them. So I have a whole stack of them here. I have about 10 right now. I think it's only going to take about 10 or 12 of them to do. The next step is going to be that you want them to be somewhat damp so that they hold their shape a little better. Okay, so all I'm going to do is take some water in a spray bottle and spray my hand. Then I'm going to take my hand and kind of pat it together, and then I'm going to pick up these coffee filters and kind of pat them in my hand. This is the same technique I do for all flowers that I create, okay, with this bloom tool. I'm going to squish them up a little bit and then open them back up. And now I'm going to take them and I'm going to place them inside of my bloom tool, inside this reservoir part, the bowl part, okay? And I'm going to take the top that has the little ball on it, and I'm going to squish it and then twist it a couple of times, and then that's going to form the shape of my petal. Now, these flowers are not going to keep that dome shape. One, we're going to keep messing with them. But what I'm after is the texture, and I hope the camera will pick it up, but the texture on these leaves is what I'm after. They get this really nice, very natural rose texture to them. So I'm going to take the next one and put it on here. You don't want your paper soaking wet, because if it is soaking wet, it will most likely tear. That's why I'm using coffee filters, is because they resist tearing, even though they're really thin paper. But look at how gorgeous that shape is. Loving it. And it really makes it look like a very delicate rose petal. And you could probably do more than one at a time if you wanted to, but it doesn't take any time at all to knock these out. So, let's see. The more crinkled it is when it goes in there, the more shape it's going to have, in my opinion, the more texture. You want some of your leaves to kind of do that fold over thing. And you can tell the coffee is just, they almost look white because it's just such a nice vintage antique color. And I think I got one more after this one. Now, this bloom tool you can also, for the open flower that I have, I placed it on the ridge and then did it. But for these, I want them to be inside. I don't want that ridge. Okay. And when you use regular paper, I find that the thinner the paper, the better it works. That's in my opinion. Okay, so once we've got all of our dyes done, we can put that to the side. We don't need it anymore. Now we're going to take our, I lost it. I think it's on the back of this. Yes. We're going to take a glue dot, and this is the kind that comes on a roll. You know, the glue dot, it's like you can buy a big roll of them. I'm going to put, it's a 1/4 inch. I'm going to put where that stem is that comes over that ball. Now, remember, you want your balls to be very dry when you do this. You're going to take it and place it that glue dot right over that stem, and you're going to lift it off of this wax backing, which can be a little tricky, and mine is not quite dry yet, so it's going to be really tricky for me. So we have that glue dot on there. Now it's time to add our flowers. So we're going to take our first flower, and I'm going to add a little spot of hot glue right here to the center, right where that stem is. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to lay it down right in the middle, just like that. And it's going to hold it into place. Pull it up a little bit, and I'm going to wrap it around the ball. The ball is there to keep the bud shape, so it doesn't get flattened. And now I'm going to take just a little bit more glue. And guys, this works a lot better for you if you allow that stem and that glue and that clay to dry really well. I'm going to take and tuck in that next petal, and I'm going to wrap it around as well. Okay, and I'm smushing as I go, so I want this tight. I'm going to add a little bit more glue right here to the base of this flower. Keep the glue neat and at the bottom, and if you're using hot glue, you can keep it at the bottom. Okay, then I'm going to take glue, now that I've got this, and I'm going to place it right here in the center, right on top of that ball that we just created. And I'm going to start smushing these together. And you don't want so much glue that it oozes out. Just a little spot will do. And you're going to keep it smushed in. Just like that. And it covers up. If it does happen to squish out, just peel it off. Okay? So now here's our little petal. It's our bud. It's starting to form. And just smush it in just like that. Now I'm going to take, and at the base of this flower where those two petals connected before, I'm going to start building out my layers one at a time. And I'm going to come in a little slightly offset each time. You know, coming in towards the middle of each one of these as I come around. Keeping my glue at the base. Okay. Now where these two connect, I need to hide that spot. So put a little bit of glue right there and come around with the next flower. And I'm going to keep doing this until I reach my desired thickness. Just keep smashing it in, and you can see our bud is really starting to take form now. And just overlapping. Whoops, got caught on my finger. And just keep it compressed until it dries. You can use wet glue. Like I said, you can use wet glue as long as you've pre-colored your flowers. And then I think I have one more to go. Just keep it pressed in. One more. And you can start to see that we have a really neat looking flower petal already forming. Okay, so now once we've got that all set, now it's time to add the hip, our rose hip, which is the little green part at the base of the rose. And I like to secure mine down with a little bit of hot glue at the base. And again, you can use wet glue if you want to. I don't like to wait. And if you use hot glue, make sure you're using a low temp or you're very, very careful. Okay, so this is floral tape, and I'm just going to take it and wrap it around where I put that hot glue. I'm going to hold my bud tight. And to get it started, this floral tape is very sticky when it's wet or moist. So, but the hot glue kind of helps to hold it in place to get it tight, wrapped around our bud there. So I'm just going to take it and just spritz a little bit of water right there. Get that good moist, and let it soak into that tape, and it's going to activate the adhesive in the tape. And I'm pinching as I twist down this stem. I'm actually pinching it with this hand as well as this hand as I twist. So I'm pinch and twist, 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 and there you go. There's your bud. You just come back around like this. Okay, now if you wanted to leave it as a closed bud, you're done. You're pretty much done. Okay, but I don't want to. I want mine to have a little more texture. So let me clean this up. This is just water. I'm gonna pick it up with this coffee filter. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take, I have chosen this old rose color from Prima chalk. You can use any ink you want. And I'm just going to touch the tips of my flowers with this pink. And you'll notice that it really makes that antique coffee stain look really cool. You could use a yellow, it would be really pretty too. And just touch those leaves really well. Next, I want to take my tweezers and very gently I'm going to start making my flower bloom by pulling these petals down, which is why we didn't put glue so close up to the top of the petal. We kept it down towards the base so that we could help our flowers bloom. Okay, with the exception of the piece that we pinched in the middle. We don't want to open that up. So then we're going to take, if you want them to really look like they bloomed, and like I said, you could be done right now. This is done. But I like to take these and just kind of fold them down a little bit more to give a little more depth. And you'll start seeing our flower come to life. And see how that bloom impression tool left those ridges, and then whenever I hit it with this old rose, see how I'm really starting to see that texture? Isn't it gorgeous? That's what the tool did for this. It's not so much that we kept the bowl shape, but we kept the texture that it gave. And roses have a lot of that kind of texture. They're very delicate and they have these veins that run through their petals. And then we're going to take pull it down. Take some time and just really pull these down. And if you find that you need a little more of the ink on there, then go right on ahead. Isn't it gorgeous? Look at how pretty and delicate that rose is right there. And then I like to take my finger and just work that right back up a little bit to get it a little tighter. And there you go. And it's super simple. And if you want a fuller looking rose, just keep adding more of those petals coming around the base. For a more smaller, more delicate rose, just use fewer petals. You can also use the other dies to make a rose. The peony one, I need to try that one because that one has a little more texture on the tips of the roses, so it may have a different, it'll have a different look altogether. So same concept, just a different die. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you go check out the blog post. If you like this tutorial, please hit subscribe and share it with a friend. I really appreciate your time tonight. I know it was a long process, and thanks again for watching, and don't forget to go see the blog post.